Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our participants around the world. My name is Makoto Kato from Overseas Environmental Cooperation Center, Japan. Welcome to our side event, Building Global Supply Chain of Green Hydrogen to Support the Energy Transition Toward a Decarbonized Society. This side event is jointly organized by the Ministry of the Environment Japan and the Global Environmental Center Foundation. Let me first make some announcement for the audience. We'll be holding Q&A session after each session. And our online viewers can also submit your questions through the Q&A feature. And for each of your questions, please write in English, and please also remember to write the name of the speaker that you want to address question. And we're going to select participants and speakers. Now, at the outset of our event, I would like to invite Your Excellency, Mr. Yutaka Shoda, Vice Minister for Global Environmental Affairs, Ministry of the Environment of Japan. Please, Mr. Shoda.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this side event. Minister of Environment, Dr. Tsuyoshi Michael Yamaguchi, was eager to join this meeting physically, but unfortunately, he was unable to be with us today. So let me start with his opening remarks on video. Please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Tsuyoshi Yamaguchi, Minister for the Environment Japan. Thank you very much for joining this side event on building an international supply chain of green hydrogen for the transition to a decarbonized society. It is most essential to drastically increase renewable energy to promote decarbonization in the Asia-Pacific region. Availability of renewable energy sources varies from country to country. In this context, hydrogen offers a significant advantage as an energy carrier to store or transport. Our ministry has been conducting pilot projects at 10 locations in Japan to produce and locally consume green hydrogen. For example, hydrogen is delivered to homes through existing supermarkets' delivery networks and utilized as an energy source of fuel cell battery. In this way, our ministry is paving the way to realize a decarbonized hydrogen lifestyle that incorporates green hydrogen into daily life. We are also embarking on a reconstruction project in Fukushima using green hydrogen. For example, green hydrogen will be used in local public bath facilities. In addition to these domestic initiatives, Japan has been also active overseas. This year, our ministry will start a pilot project to produce green hydrogen in Australia. It will be used in neighboring island countries. Japan and Australia will collaborate closely to accelerate bilateral cooperation with each other on green hydrogen toward decarbonization and realization of net zero emissions under the Partnership on Decarbonization Through Technology, which was agreed between our two leaders in June this year. I sincerely hope that today's side event will mark a great start of a bilateral cooperation between Japan and Australia to expand the green hydrogen market and build an international supply chain in the Indo-Pacific area, including the island countries in the Pacific. I also hope that we can further deepen our collaboration with multilateral development banks such as the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank to deploy green hydrogen in the region. Last but not least, it is my sincere hope that today's side event will also contribute to deepening partnerships among participants and stimulate the development of new business projects in the area of international supply chains for green hydrogen. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon in Glasgow.
Next, we'd like to invite Minister Taylor, Australian Ministry for Industry, Energy and Emissions Reduction, as a video message for us. So let me start with his opening remarks on video.
Australia is proud to be working in close partnership with Japan in leading the way for the creation of a viable global supply chain for clean hydrogen. Australia will act in a practical, responsible way to deliver net zero emissions by 2050 while preserving Australian jobs and advancing technologies that will help reduce emissions globally. We share Japan's ambition to accelerate the development and commercialisation of low and zero emissions technologies. Clean hydrogen has enormous potential to facilitate global efforts to reduce emissions. We see two things being essential to the next steps of success in the clean hydrogen industry: creating markets to build scale and getting technology costs down. Reducing costs is particularly important for the hydrogen produced from renewable energy, which is currently more than twice as expensive as alternatives such as production using natural gas with carbon capture and storage. Clean hydrogen is a priority technology under Australia's technology investment roadmap. Our goal is to produce clean hydrogen under $2 per kilogram or cheaper as it becomes economically competitive with traditional alternatives and attractive to investors. The Australian government's keen to support hydrogen industry growth, and we've already invested $1.2 billion in our hydrogen industry, working closely with our state and territory governments, with industry and customers on delivery of our national hydrogen strategy. This is part of a $20 billion investment in low emissions technologies to drive over $80 billion of public and private investment over the decade to 2030. The funding includes up to $464 million to develop hydrogen hubs in regional Australia that will bring hydrogen producers and users in the same location to help industry grow in scale. Now, we've committed over $100 million for 3 10-megawatt electrolyzer projects in Australia to support the export of renewable ammonia and hydrogen blending in domestic gas networks. These are some of the largest electrolyzers in the world. Australia is grateful to Japan for being an integral part of our hydrogen journey. Together, we've already built some of the world's largest and most successful energy supply chains. Australia is looking forward to the first shipment of liquefied clean hydrogen made from Australian coal to Japan in coming months from our world-first hydrogen energy supply chain demonstration project in Gippsland, Victoria. And we're building on our achievements through the Japan-Australia Partnership on Decarbonisation through Technology announced in June. We're excited about our joint commitment to support initiatives such as lower emissions LNG, clean fuel ammonia and clean hydrogen that will help drive the transitions to net zero. As we look to new export opportunities, it's more important than ever to establish a robust framework for a future global trade in hydrogen. And this is one reason why Australia is also pleased to be playing a leading role with Japan and other countries to establish common carbon accounting methodologies for hydrogen certification. We're doing this through the International Partnership for Hydrogen and Fuel Cells in the Economy. International collaboration is vital for speeding up deployment of low emissions technologies like hydrogen and building efficient global energy supply chains. And that's why Australia is investing in building partnerships with Japan and other international partners such as Singapore, Korea, Germany and the UK to deploy these technologies. This year alone, Australia has committed over $565 million to back international partnerships on low emissions technologies. We look forward to continuing to work in close partnerships with Japan and other countries on clean hydrogen and other low emissions technologies in the year ahead. Thank you.
Next, we would like to invite Minister Spears, South Australia's Ministry for Environment and Water, as a video message for us. Let's please.
Minasan, konnichiwa. My name is David Spears and I'm South Australia's Minister for Environment and Water. It gives me great pleasure to be able to speak to you today at COP26 in Glasgow. I'm sorry I can't be there, but international borders don't allow it at the moment. However, I really want to say very clearly that Japan has no greater friend and partner than South Australia when it comes towards our joint journey towards a hydrogen-powered future. There is so much potential, so much opportunity here, and we look forward to working hand in hand with Japan as we provide your nation with clean green hydrogen, powered and created from our very significant renewable energy sources here in South Australia. So there follows a short video which will outline what we're doing in terms of hydrogen production and gives you an overview of our journey towards a decarbonised future. I hope you enjoy it and I look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you, Ministers. As Minister Yamaguchi and Minister Taylor have just said, Japan and Australia will collaborate closely to accelerate bilateral cooperation with each other on green hydrogen toward decarbonization. We will also collaborate with the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank for regional cooperation on this area. Today, we have invited important stakeholders for Green Hydrogen Network, national government, governmental agency, international organization, and private sectors. It's my sincere hope today's side event will be a learning opportunity for all participants and will promote the dissemination of green hydrogen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Mr. Shoda, for introducing three key heart-warming speeches from our Minister of the Environment, also two Australian ministers, and fantastic video presentation. Now, with this, I would like to move to the next session. The first session is we're having three gentlemen on the floor and also colleagues from online. So I would like to invite for the speakers to the front. And as the first speaker, we are having the presentation about the from the Ministry of the Environment. The session one is introduction of green hydrogen projects supported by governments and financial institutions. And as the first presenter, I would like to invite Mr. Ryuzo Sugimoto, Director of International Cooperation and Sustainable Infrastructure Office, Global Environmental Bureau, Ministry of the Environment, Japan. Sugimoto-san, please.
Thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much for coming to this event. I'm very glad to see you all here. Let me introduce Japan's effort for the green hydrogen briefly. Next slide, please. As you may know, Japan is leading the hydrogen, especially the basic hydrogen strategy has been announced in 2017. This is the first comprehensive national strategies. And hydrogen as a future energy option, so toward 2050. In 2017, we already noticed the importance of these hydrogens for the decarbonizations. And 3 conditions for realizing affordable hydrogens from supply side and demand side. So such kind of the condition should be solved by the several pilot projects and international corporations. And key technology to be developed in each stage: productions, transportation, and the usage of these green hydrogens. That is the main strategy for this. Next slide, please. Our colleagues, METI, is leading the hydrogen strategy. In addition to that, the Minister of the Environment, Japan, focus on the domestic green hydrogens. Especially, we create the hydrogen from the renewable energies and use this renewable hydrogens in such the area. That means so we can use renewable energies in domestically and also in a remote area as well. So such project, we already have the 10 pilot projects has been developed in Japan. But why green hydrogen is so important? You know, everybody agree on the importance of the renewable energies for the decarbonizations. However, we also understand that renewable energies is depending on the condition of the country and of the regions. It is not uneven, it is unevenly distributed. So how we can connect the demand side of the supply side of the renewable energies? Then the hydrogen is a key for the connections. So we try to use green hydrogen as much as possible. And this year, we start the collaboration internationally. But before that, let me a little bit introduce our pilot project in Japan. Next slide, please. This is a very unique project. It's not really like a normal renewable energy, but these chemical companies collaborate with us. And the chemical companies use plastic waste to generate hydrogen and also for the ammonia. But surplus of the hydrogens can be exported from the outside of their industry to utilize hydrogen in a close area of the hotel. This is to provide electricity and heat at the hotel. So such kind of the hydrogen project also has been implemented in Japan. This is also for the circular economy and also marine plus litter issues. We can connect green hydrogen to the other issues as well. Next slide, please. Another unique project is to utilize hydrogen absorbing alloys. Normally, hydrogens needs to very carefully use hydrogens for the safety issues. This hydrogen absorbing alloys is a tool for using the hydrogens very safely. So in this project, this hydrogen technology can absorb the hydrogens in as alloy, and then safely it will be transported by the normal truck or normal car without export. And then this hydrogen can be used in home and also some co-op or some supermarket. So it's very safely we can use hydrogens. That kind of the technologies also has been implemented as a pilot in Japan. Next slide, please. This year, we start a pilot project for comprehensively support throughout the whole hydrogen supply chain abroad. We have accumulated knowledge by the domestic pilot project. Then we'd like to utilize this kind of the know-how and also the technologies with other countries. Our colleagues, METI, already has been cooperating with Australia to the hydrogen exporting to Japan. In addition to such project, we'd like to start this project at first with Australia for producing the green hydrogens in some countries which is which has a surplus renewable energies. Already, the Minister of South Australia mentioned about that abundance of the potential of the renewable energy in this area. And then these hydrogens can be stored and also transported to the third countries. In addition to Japan, other countries also we hear a lot of the demand from the island country or some Asian countries, the use of the green hydrogens. And then, this COP26, Article 6 is the main issues. And then we have been implementing the joint crediting mechanism as a part of the Article 6.2. We have been developing the project in 17 countries for JCM project. Then we can use these technologies to third countries like Indonesia or some island country like Maldives or Palau. So now we'd like to start such a pilot project for making the record and also for the potential of such kind of transport and also the supply chain for the green hydrogens. This year, we got a lot of the proposal from the private sectors with a consortium, and then the first project has been selected. Later on, our colleague Marubeni present the project detail, but we already have one selected project which produce hydrogens in South Australia, and then the hydrogens is to be transported to Indonesia for the use of these green hydrogens. We hope the green hydrogens supply chains. This idea, we hope this idea can be shared with all of the stakeholders, including not only the Australian government, but other international organizations like ADB or World Bank for deploying the green hydrogens. Today, it's a good the venue for the sharing their effort and also the knowledge, and also discuss further the collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fro. It's been very exciting that Japan and Australia initiated for this very important initiative to promote green hydrogen, and with a view to involving third parties, nations. I think this is a really good momentum for us. Thank you very much, Sugimoto-san, for introducing the initiative by the Ministry of the Environment, Japan. Now, I would like to invite the next speaker, Mr. James Larson, Australia's Climate Coordinator, Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet, Australian Government.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Japan, for hosting this gathering. Is that the sound going okay? Good. Thank you so much indeed. Look, that was a great presentation, and I wanted to build on it a little bit. As Minister Taylor, Minister of Energy and Emissions mentioned, Australia is investing very heavily in hydrogen, and we are looking at something like $1.2 billion in Australian government investment. We are looking at the development of hydrogen hubs in locations across Australia, and that's very much a part of a very strong and proactive hydrogen development program run by the federal government. But I think the point that was being made in your presentation is absolutely key to this. Hydrogen is potentially extremely important for Australia from a domestic perspective, but it is also, in our view, going to be fundamental to our regional future. The arrangement that we entered into with Japan earlier this year in relation to hydrogen, of course, builds on a long history of hydrogen work that we have done together, but it is extremely important as a way of taking forward the practical application of what we can do in the hydrogen space. And the anticipated delivery of the first hydrogen shipment from Victoria, clean hydrogen produced from coal and from Victoria, that is an incredibly important pilot. When I look at Australia's positioning, and we reflect on the fact that the government, the Australian government has set aside something like 565 million Australian dollars, 420 or so million US dollars for international partnerships to help us progress relationships in the low emissions technology space. Hydrogen is such an important part of that. Japan is one of those key relationships, and the work that we're going to do with Japan in this space is going to be fundamental to demonstrating the practicality of the transition from a really well-established fossil fuel market, which Japan has been for Australia over a very extended period, to a renewables market and clean and then ultimately, no doubt, green hydrogen. But in a way, this is only the beginning. So our international partnerships also include a close research relationship with Germany, again in hydrogen. We signed this year a memorandum of understanding with Singapore on maritime ports, low emissions technology and approaches. Again, that will be very much focused on hydrogen. We also had a careful look, we've had a very careful look in the development of a technology partnership with Korea. Again, hydrogen will be a part of that. So I think hydrogen is absolutely key to how we anticipate the development of our technical and capability relationships across our region. And I think the point that you made just a moment ago, it's not confined to those very developed markets that we already have. Australia is obviously a key supplier of coal and gas to markets like Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, to an extent the Philippines, our immediate region. And so we very much see the work that we are doing with Japan and other international partners in the clean hydrogen space as a critical part of our responsibility to help our region and our long-standing traditional resources customers, the transition of those customers from fossil fuels to renewables. That's not going to happen overnight. You can't just turn off exports overnight and leave countries to their own devices. We're going to have to work with those countries in terms of an effective and managed transition, and hydrogen is a key part of that story. I will also mention the work that we did with Japan in the context of the Quad Leaders meeting led by President Biden in the United States earlier this year. As all of you will know, I'm sure, the Quad is the relationship between India, the United States, Japan and Australia. And in that Quad context, clean energy security supply chain work was highlighted as a critical need. The development of low emissions and renewables energy technologies for deployment across the Indo-Pacific was identified as a critical need. And so we're going to be working with those Quad partners, and obviously particularly including Japan in this space, and hydrogen is very much a part of this. And it'd be remiss of me not to draw on our own Prime Minister's remarks. Prime Minister Morrison, his comment very much about the technology and the energy transition we're seeing is that ambition is fine, but it's actually about the how. It's how we deliver, it's how we deploy. And we see getting technology at an appropriate cost point into the hands of our developing country nations and partners in our region. That is going to be key to a net zero future, and hydrogen and our relationship with Japan is very much a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Larson. Indeed, I agree. Well, this is our future of our direction, and then I think Australia is actually taking the lead in the world, especially when this Asia Pacific or in the Pacific region. I think this is a great opportunity for Japan as well, and I hope it's going to be strengthened together. Thank you very much for your great speech. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Darren Miller, Chief Executive Officer, the Australian Renewable Energy Agency. Please, Mr. Miller, yes.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Delighted to be here with my Australian colleagues and my new Japanese friends who I've met today. It's a very important relationship for Australia, and I'm very delighted to be here. We have a saying that we leave the best to last, and this is my final engagement, formal engagement at COP, and therefore this is the best engagement, so thank you very much. As you said, my name is Darren Miller. I lead the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, which is Australia's federal government agency responsible for the early stage innovation through to commercial deployment, but we provide grants to new projects. And green hydrogen, renewable hydrogen, has been a key focus of my agency for at least 4 years now, and we've invested quite heavily in the space with over 33 projects from lab research all the way through to deployments, with $163 million of Australian government money committed to those projects. We're a $3.7 billion agency, and hydrogen is a key element of our past and future strategy. And so I see us being very involved in the relationship and many of the projects that we'll put on the ground in Australia that will be of benefit. I think the value I can add today is to talk practically about the strategy and why what we see as important, and give some practical examples of some of the projects we have in our portfolio, some of which have Japanese partnerships to date. So we've heard about the commitment from the government with the $1.2 billion, and we're a share of that. And from our perspective, the key challenge, and as set in the government's technology roadmap, is to get the cost of production down. The thing we have to do is to move from what we think is about $6 to $9 Australian to produce hydrogen today to the $2 target, which is $1.50 US in today's exchange rates, and below that to have a heavy industrial opportunity and to overcome the tyranny of distance and the issues of shipping hydrogen. We need much lower cost hydrogen. It becomes very apparent from the green perspective that to have low cost hydrogen, you need very low cost renewable energy input into that production process. And so the Australian government, in the latest low emissions technology statement, and my agency's strategy, is to drive down the cost of solar production much below where it is today. We have a target in our federal government's plan to produce solar at $15 per megawatt hour. Again, that's about $11, $12 US. That is a roughly 2/3 cost reduction from today's levels. It's a very ambitious plan, and ARENA has taken on that challenge with our own strategy called Solar 30-30-30. And the 330s represent a 30% module efficiency, up from 22% today. So that's an increase in the performance of the modules to 30% efficiency. The second 30 is 30 cents per watt installed in the field. So that's not the module, that's the full system that is able to produce electricity at 30 cents per watt, which is a 70% cost reduction from today's levels. And we'd like to achieve all of that by 2030. A very ambitious time frame, a very ambitious goal, and if we can achieve that low-cost solar at $15 per megawatt hour, which is the equivalent when you do the levelized cost of energy conversion, we have a great opportunity to produce the hydrogen at or below $2 per kilogram. I mentioned that ARENA has been involved already in investing in 33 projects spanning the innovation chain, and in amongst that $163 million in those projects, we have 3 projects that are yet to reach financial close but are well progressed, which would be some of the largest electrolyzers installed today. And you heard Minister Taylor talk about the 3 electrolyzers, so 3 10-megawatt electrolyzers, one of them at an ammonia facility in Karratha in Western Australia with Yara and Engie, the French company. That one facility produces 5% of the world's traded ammonia, and we're looking at starting the process of blending green hydrogen in amongst the grey hydrogen to improve the green credentials of that ammonia production and learn through an early scaling of what could be possible, with the objective of moving to a full green ammonia production once the learnings have occurred. The other 2 projects are both gas injection projects into the natural gas network, one in Western Australia with ATCO and one in Victoria with AGIG. And both of them, the gas networks are a large amount of storage and provide an early opportunity to experiment and demonstrate the production of green hydrogen with an immediate way to consume and offtake that hydrogen before we address the more complex export opportunity, which is where we think the real opportunity lies. Just this week, we announced a study that we've embarked on with the Port of Newcastle to look at a 40-megawatt electrolyzer in combination with many partners, including Idemitsu from Japan, with the objective of building the project and ultimately scaling that to up to 1 gigawatt of electrolysis capacity at the Port of Newcastle, which is a key shipping port for fossil fuels today, and we look forward to that being a key port for the export of green products in the future. In 2019, Minister Taylor and I visited the Toyota Eco Park in Altona in Victoria, and we launched one of our first electrolyzers in Australia, which is at the old Toyota manufacturing plant at that facility. And that's a small electrolyzer demonstrating the ability to produce, and I know Sam in the audience has the pleasure of taking our previous chief scientist's fuel cell vehicle to be refueled at that plant on a regular basis. And Sam will no doubt be able to tell us how that goes. So those are just a few examples of some of the very important projects we're doing in Australia, the projects we're doing with Japan. We are enormously excited by the opportunity that this presents and the possibility of collaborating with you well into the future to the benefit of both our countries and the Indo-Pacific region, and congratulate you for the partnership and the work you're doing, and thank you for the opportunity today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. You have described the very ambitious target or goal with a very concrete terms and steps we take in a roadmap. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity for us to work together through your roadmap. I think this is we really learned a lot from your story. Thank you very much. Now, I am inviting another speaker from Asian Development Bank, Mr. Shintaro Fuji, Environment and Climate Change Specialist, Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management Division, Sustainable Development and Climate Change Department, Asian Development Bank or ADB. Fuji-san, please.
Thank you very much, Kato-san. Let me share the screen. Just a moment, please. Okay, can you see the screen? Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, so let's get started. So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'm Shintaro Fuji from Asian Development Bank, ADB. So, I'm managing the Japan Fund for the Joint Crediting Mechanism, JFJCM. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity to speak about our activity on hydrogen and JFJCM. So first, I would like to introduce ADB briefly. So ADB was established in 1966 as a multilateral development bank. And ADB provides loans, grants, and other services to our developing member countries in Asia and the Pacific. In 2020, ADB committed a record $31.6 billion US dollars. So in 2018, ADB formulated the strategy 2030, which is our overall long-term corporate strategy. And strategy 2030 has several operational priorities, and one of them puts emphasis on tackling climate change, building climate and disaster resilience, and enhancing environmental sustainability. We also set out ambitious targets. First, at least 75% of committed operations support climate change mitigation and adaptation by 2030. And second, as our president announced last month, we are raising our ambition to deliver $100 billion in cumulative climate financing from 2019 to 2030. We have also updated our energy policy to formally withdraw from financing new coal-fired power generation and support the development of sustainable and resilient energy system in line with the Paris Agreement. So ADB's new energy policy guides ADB support universal access to reliable and affordable energy services while promoting the low-carbon transition in Asia and the Pacific. The policy is based on these 5 principles. First, securing energy for prosperous and inclusive Asia and the Pacific, including electrification and gender equality. Second, building a sustainable and resilient energy future. This includes deploying more renewable and low-carbon energy and promoting a just transition. And third, supporting institutions, private sector participation, and good governance, including updating and strengthening NDCs and long-term strategies for decarbonization. Fourth, promoting regional cooperation and integration. And fifth, integrated cross-sector operations to maximize development impact by combining finance, knowledge, partnerships, and our country-focused approach. In terms of green hydrogen, the energy policy mentions that newer technologies are maturing that can contribute to a clean energy transition, and the green hydrogen and other technologies can play a role in transitioning the business areas that are more difficult to decarbonize, such as long-range transport, industry, and space cooling and heating. ADB provides a wide range of support on hydrogen. Knowledge sharing through workshops and publications, supporting government policy development, such as strategy, roadmap, and regulatory framework, and enhancing the hydrogen trading platform to utilize unused renewable energy resources and the international supply chain for global GHG reductions. Supporting pilot and scaling up, and lastly, supporting finance hydrogen projects, including production, transportation, and distribution infrastructure, as well as market applications. So the Japan Fund for the Joint Crediting Mechanism, JFJCM, is one instrument that can support those activities on hydrogen. JFJCM provides financial incentives for adoption of advanced low-carbon technologies in ADB finance projects that use the Joint Crediting Mechanism, JCM. And JCM is widely regarded as the forerunner of Article 6.2 of the Paris Agreement. And the ADB so far is the only multilateral development bank to have a fund that utilizes the JCM. 11 JCM partner countries in Asia Pacific region are eligible for JFJCM. JFJCM provides grant for sovereign projects and interest subsidy for non-sovereign projects. And the maximum amount of JFJCM grant or interest subsidy is 10% of total project costs, capped to $10 million. Currently, we are conducting a hydrogen pre-feasibility study by using JFJCM fund. The main purpose is to identify the opportunities to introduce hydrogen infrastructure in Maldives and Palau. The survey is ongoing, and further consultation with the governments is necessary, but the survey tentatively suggests that the priority in parallel, pilot-scale hydrogen projects should be developed to increase readiness and capacity for achieving net zero. Possible technologies to be piloted should include first, fuel cell boats for inter-island transportation, and second, hydrogen-based microgrids with cogeneration, for example, for hotels in resort islands. So lastly, we believe that green hydrogen has a key role in achieving carbon neutrality. So we look forward to working further with our partner governments, the private sector, and all stakeholders on green hydrogen. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fuji-san. It's been very encouraging that the finance institution has just joined us for hydrogen work. And I think it's really good that the ADB, in the context of the development of Asian countries, in making efforts to push these efforts toward the realization. Thank you very much, Fuji-san, for your introduction. Another finance institution, the World Bank. Dr. Dimitrios Papatanios, Global Director for the Energy and Extractive Global Practices, the World Bank. Dimitrios, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning to those of you in Europe and on this side of the Atlantic, and good afternoon and good evening further to the east. It really is a pleasure to join this panel and discuss the important role that hydrogen will play in decarbonizing the economy of developing countries. We really appreciate Japan's leadership in convening this meeting and in developing and implementing green hydrogen solutions in the Indo-Pacific region. And it's a great pleasure also to see Australia joining these efforts. Japan and Australia have very significant influence in the region, and they really do set an example for the countries as they develop their energy policies. So let me start by first saying that the World Bank is committed to supporting countries to achieve a just, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable energy transition. A lot of progress has been made in expanding access to clean and sustainable electricity over the past few years, but of course there's still a lot that needs to be done. To reach our climate goals, we have to certainly reduce emissions in the power sector, but we also need to tackle emissions outside of the power sector, which can be really challenging. So how do we do that? How can we decarbonize industry and transport? And how can we provide long duration storage that we can fully harness renewable power? So part of this answer is green hydrogen. It has the potential to produce local clean fuels and feedstock that can then be used to decarbonize the hard-to-abate industries, sea transportation, buildings. And I think especially in the context of small island development states, such as those in the Indo-Pacific region, green hydrogen can play an important role in fully displacing diesel in mini-grids, decrease the exposure of consumers and households to high price volatility of imported hydrocarbons. I think this is resonates especially hard today, where we see really high prices for oil, and we know that the cost of production of electricity, especially from diesel generators and in small islands, is very high and creating a lot of stress in the economies of these countries. Now, on the other hand, green hydrogen can help small islands improve their access to reliable fuel sources, especially in remote locations, by producing hydrogen locally or building a hydrogen supply chain from other countries. In addition, it offers the possibility of producing a clean fuel that can power fuel cells, as well as producing sustainable fuels for maritime and terrestrial transportation. It would allow these countries to develop reliable power systems, supplying firm power that can then also be much more resilient to adverse weather events. And this is an issue that is quite significant for many of the Pacific islands. Now, the benefits of green hydrogen in these settings can also translate into improved natural environment, with less risk of pollution both in the land and in the ocean. So there are multiple benefits, and the strategic reasons for helping these countries to quickly accelerate development of hydrogen and green hydrogen is really strong. The development of a green hydrogen industry and the development of renewable sources to feed clean energy requirements has the potential to achieve a post-COVID-19 green, resilient, and inclusive recovery. This is evidence in the 12 million jobs worldwide that were created in 2020 by the renewable energy sector. Green hydrogen can create direct, indirect, and induced jobs through the entire value chain. For instance, it can create jobs in hydrogen equipment manufacturing, production, and distribution infrastructure, and end-use applications in the power, transport, the buildings, and the industry sectors. Estimates by our colleagues in the International Renewable Energy Association indicate that investments in electrolyzers and other green hydrogen infrastructure could create about 2 million jobs worldwide between 2030 and 2050. The potential for green hydrogen to generate high-quality jobs means that countries will not have to choose between environmental sustainability on the one hand and employment creation on the other. Green hydrogen can unlock the generation of more and better quality jobs in small island development states and contribute to achieve a just energy transition. Now, analysis done by the World Bank, our colleagues, has identified a number of technical, economic, and financial challenges to the deployment of green hydrogen in small island developing states and in the broader developing countries. The issues range from the high cost of electrolyzer today, the elevated cost of transport infrastructure, the lack of regulations, standards, and institutional arrangements that are necessary to foster a sustainable scale-up of the green hydrogen industry. Two additional challenges is the restricted availability of skilled experts and the need to sustainably produce water for projects through desalination or wastewater treatment. So how do we tackle those challenges and advance the deployment of green hydrogen technologies? As we know, and as it happened in the past with other renewable energy technologies, the role of the public sector is key to scale up green hydrogen. To leverage the full potential of this technology, especially in developing countries, there are 3 key steps that governments can take, and in the World Bank, we are ready to support them, and indeed we are supporting several countries on this front. First of all, I think it's necessary to develop a clear national hydrogen strategy or a roadmap that identifies the main infrastructure needs, as well as the potential of the users and the off-takers. Then we need to implement policies that encourage the supply and demand of green hydrogen. Second, we need to promote the adoption of safety standards and appropriate regulations that will guarantee the sustainability of the industry. And third, we need to support the pilots and demonstration projects that will help reach commercial stages and technology maturity of green hydrogen projects, leading to the creation of local capacity and expertise. The World Bank is supporting client countries through our global program on green hydrogen funded by the Energy Sector Management Assistance Program, ESMA. The program explores the potential of green hydrogen in creating economic opportunities and in achieving decarbonization. It raises awareness about the socioeconomic benefits of green hydrogen in our client countries. Now, thanks to this program, countries benefiting from ESMA assistance in developing green hydrogen strategies, we've identified near and long-term opportunities and tackling the challenges related to the deployment of green hydrogen projects. I would also like to use this opportunity to thank Japan for its commitment to support green hydrogen adoption in developing countries through their support to ESMA. We strongly believe that having the support from a world hydrogen leader such as Japan is boosting the impacts of our programs. The World Bank is providing technical assistance and financial support to identify and deploy the first green hydrogen investment operations. For example, we're starting in Chile, where the technical team is supporting the creation of a green hydrogen fund that will mitigate some of the main risks perceived by the private sector and improve the enabling environment for green hydrogen in the country. These first projects, such as the one in Chile, will deliver key insights and understanding of technology, engineering, and procurement aspects. Concessional financing will also be critical to develop pilot projects at scale, to gain experience and to reduce the technology risk in developing countries in general, and in the Indo-Pacific region in particular. In this region, the World Bank has active dialogue in the Philippines, in Indonesia, in Vietnam, and Pacific Islands, among others. And we already have active green hydrogen engagements in India, where we're supporting the country in upgrading its national strategy to include green hydrogen. At the global level, over 15 countries have announced green hydrogen strategies, and developing countries are closely following international discussions and progress achieved in high-income countries. As testimony of this interest, the World Bank is already responding to requests to support 13 developing countries to better understand the role that green hydrogen can play in achieving their development and climate objectives. And we find that there is a lot of interest and a lot of demand in receiving such support from the World Bank. So we look forward to continue to partner with leading countries like Japan and Australia and others present in this forum to help mobilize sufficient concessional funds that will be needed to scale up the technology and to make available to the most vulnerable economies, including countries that are relying today solely on diesel and heavy fuel oil to meet their energy needs. We really are looking forward to continue working with everyone, and we are very optimistic about how green hydrogen can really help with the decarbonization agenda and development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dimitrios. Well, congratulations for your excellent presentation. Also, let me return to you for questions slightly later on this. So we have excellent presentation speeches from Australia, Japan, and also the World Bank and Asian Development Bank. And I think this is a really good input for us to proceed our discussion. While we are a little bit behind the time, but I think with your indulgence, we would like to throw questions at our audience and as well as participants because it's very interesting to have your views on your efforts. So questions are very simple. What are your roles and strengths in building global supply chain of green hydrogen? What are strengths and roles of your country or your institutions? Maybe, I would like to request my a question to Mr. Larsen, maybe from Australian perspective. what do you think is the Australian strength and also the roles to be played?
I'm getting very confused with my mask and everything.
That's
look,
really
I think
difficult.
actually Darren Miller will be a person who can answer this substantively as well. Look, obviously the key thing is offering is as a supplier, we have vast produce clean energy, solar, hydro, and we also have the capacity using our existing resources infrastructure, as we see in relation to the project in Victoria, drawing on coal resources. We have a huge capability to use that existing resource base to produce hydrogen and then sell into, well, first of all, to develop the technology necessary for both storage and transport, but then to sell into our region and beyond. And of course, I would say that the fact that we have those long-established Indo-Pacific, Asia-Pacific relationships, Japan, Korea, obviously, but also those other countries that I mentioned that are very much a focus of our future partnerships. Those established relationships and the linkages that we have are key going forward. Darren, I don't know whether you...
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, well, to microphone to Mr. Miller. I think you can speak out.
You can hear me?
Yeah, yes.
I think James is. I think James's point is completely accurate. Even though I'm from the technology side, I would say that the historical proof of the trust in the relationship and the willingness to work together is the main thing that we have to offer. And that's the historical relationship, and then obviously the natural resources for the future production is important. Yeah.
It's very nice to know, nice to hear our willingness to work together. This is a really strong message. Now, maybe I also would like to take up a question from the floor. We have already received from question from Solomon Island, actually. Well, he wants to know, Mr. John Korinihola, he's actually missing from the Ministry of Mines and Energy and Rural Electrification. And I think this question goes to Sugimoto-san. So he wants to know more about green hydrogen and how, for example, countries like Solomon Island, which an island country, can participate in the partnership for this technology initiative.
Is it okay? Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much. I think that at first we face a lot of the issue for the decarbonization in the Indo-Pacific area. Unlike other nations or other continents, the EU and Africa can connect renewable energy by line, but in the Pacific area, it's divided by the oceans, and then that's why green hydrogen is a key for the decarbonization in the Pacific area as a whole. And then the island countries, we understand a lot of the issue or challenging for decarbonizations. The limited, sometimes a limited source of the renewable energies, and also the not connected well with transportation. So that's why we started this project. At first, we'd like to start some pilot project we also would like to invite the private sectors as well. Not only just public financing the project, but also that we'd like to, for the continuously or for the sustainable business, we'd like to invite private sectors for this area. So that's why we start not the public financing project, but kind of a subsidy scheme for private sectors. That's one. So please just at first maybe we would like to see the outcome or the progress of the private sector's project supported by the government financing. what kind of the technologies or what regions can incorporate those technologies, and also can start supply chains. I think of course Pacific Island country has a big potential for collaborating this the supply chain scheme, and but for this maybe we need to step by step. So that's why at first we start with some countries, and then if we could see some potential, also the kind of the progress we can transfer to other countries. I think maybe so we can start with other countries' collaboration as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sugimoto-san. Well, that day, I hope it's coming very soon, but I think this is a good time for us to initiate the pilot activities, as he mentioned. Now, for the two colleagues from the finance institutions, Dimitrios, what is actually the World Bank's expectation and roles to be played to fill in this green hydrogen space? What is your perspective at this time
Thank you very much for the question. In the very short term, our main role is to make sure that we can respond to the very sharply increasing demand from our client countries on knowledge about what is the potential of hydrogen, what can be done in their countries, and helping them with preparing the studies and the analysis that shows how hydrogen can fit into their economies. So this is what we're doing in the very short term. And in the medium term, and depending on particular countries, we are actually looking at a number of projects and how we can help them with financing. I mentioned that we have active engagements from the very large countries, like in India, where there's a hydrogen mission ongoing, and we're helping the government of India to develop that. And we're looking at a much smaller places and countries like the Comoros Islands and several of the countries in the Pacific, the smaller Pacific islands, where we see that hydrogen has really the potential over the longer term to replace almost everything that runs on diesel. Hydrogen is a fuel, that is the main advantage that it has, and it can really be produced locally to a certain extent using renewable energy. And I think that as the world's investment in hydrogen technology increases, as the cost of fuel cells, as we all expect, will be going down because of the scale at the global level, then I think this will provide huge benefits to the smaller countries, and we want to make sure that they are well prepared to capture those benefits and see how we can support them to improve their energy mix and the financial viability of their systems. So we're both technical assistance and, as soon as we can, financial support. And again, I would like to offer this opportunity that we're really looking forward to working with colleagues in Australia and Japan, especially as we want to expand the knowledge about what hydrogen is about and demonstrate that it really works and it can deliver benefits. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dimitrios. Now, Fuji-san, from Asia-Pacific perspective, I would like to invite your final comments.
Thank you, Kato-san. Yeah, I have the same view with Dr. Dimitrios said. And ADB has its role and strengths in finance, knowledge, and partnerships in Asia Pacific. So we can add value to our developing member countries by combining these elements. And in the context of hydrogen, ADB is willing to support developing the green hydrogen supply chain, mainly through 5 areas that I have explained earlier. So the first, sharing knowledge, and the second, supporting policy development, and the third, enhancing hydrogen trading platform. Fourth, supporting pilot projects and scaling them up, and fifth, providing finance. So to materialize the concept of the green hydrogen supply chain in Asia and the Pacific, we need to enhance the enabling environment through policy, technology, and the capacity development, so that the private sector can invest in such projects and scale up further. We would like to start with supporting pilot scale projects to demonstrate the effectiveness of such advanced technologies in developing countries while increasing readiness of the recipient countries for hydrogen infrastructure. So for this purpose, our JFGSCM team is conducting a pre-feasibility study, and we would like to identify the possible investment opportunity to scale up the green hydrogen. And we would like to cooperate with other partners, including Japan, Australia, and World Bank, and other stakeholders. So we look forward to working together further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With this, we have very rich discussion for the first session, and I hope this is making a momentum for our joint efforts on Australia and Japan, and also other partner countries. So I would like to invite your hands to the gentlemen on the front and also online for their excellent presentation and speeches. Thank you very much. Now we are diving onto into the next session. Next session 2 is introduction of green hydrogen technology and case studies. And I would like to invite Mr. Kazuo Yonekawa to the front for preparing for the presentation. Mr. Yonekawa is from Quality and Environment Division, Environmental Management Department of Panasonic. And well, Panasonic is also doing very interesting work in this green hydrogen space. So I am very happy to have him for his presentation. And also on the ground floor, his company actually prepared a very nice presentation area, and I hope you're going to join us after this session. So, Mr. Yonekawa, you're ready. So I would like to invite you to the podium, please.
Yeah, hello and good morning and good afternoon and good evening. My name is Kazuo Yonekawa from Panasonic. Today I introduce our project Redesign the Economy and Society using hydrogen towards the realization of carbon neutrality. Next please. This is our decarbonized society with our product hydrogen fuel cell. Next please. Yes. We show this with diorama in Japan Pavilion, and you can get further information there. There are 3 key points which is highlighted blue. Construction of hydrogen infrastructure included hydrogen pipelines. Hydrogen fuel cells means the local product for local consumption. It is good for resilience that prevents large-scale power outages in a disaster. Achieving zero carbon dioxide emissions throughout the entire supply chain through the use of green hydrogen. Next, please. This slide is advantages of Panasonic hydrogen fuel cells. Our hydrogen fuel cell is scalability with optimum output as distributed power. Please see below and explain that it is the flexible installation and possible according to the demand scale. This is cogeneration system outputs both the electricity and the heat. The heat is around 60 degrees Celsius. It's very hot and useful. The entire system can continue to generate electricity even if one unit stops due to maintenance. Next, please. Okay, this slide is our existing project, which is Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Athlete Village. We call the Harumi flag in Tokyo. It is first Japan's the full-scale hydrogen infrastructure. We had already provided our hydrogen fuel cells, totally 24 units, the 120 kilowatt, to these 4 common areas, like the meeting room or gym. It is our one achievement. Next, please. Okay, this slide is our new project, which is the Renewable 100 solution with hydrogen-based plant. This is our factory of hydrogen fuel cell in Kusatsu City, Shiga Prefecture, close to Kyoto. And we will start to develop RE100 solution from next April with solar panel, lithium battery, and hydrogen fuel cell, because if we use only both solar panels and lithium battery, it is just only RE20, because the solar panel cannot be worked at night and depends on weather. Then the leftover 80% comes from the hydrogen fuel cell. Once we complete this solution, we will promote and provide it globally. Finally, I'd like to explain to you that it is not just a dream, it's already real. We need to expand these projects to any other areas, and of course, we try our best to grow demand and contribute to realize a decarbonized society as soon as possible. However, we need to cooperate with our partners or governments because it cannot be achieved by one company. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Well, it is not a dream, it is real. So it's happening already in parts of Tokyo, and also it's coming to you, to all over the world. So I really appreciate for the presentation about for the hydrogen society. Now, I am also introducing for another Japanese presenter from the private sector, Mr. Hiroshi Tachigami, General Manager of the Power Business Department 3, Marubeni Corporation. Tachigami-san, may I have your floor, please?
Awesome. As introduced, I'm Hiroshi Tachigami, a General Manager of the Power Project of Marubeni Corporation, Japan. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity for Ministry of the Environment, Japan. I would like to explain our Marubeni's commitment to this decarbonization society. Let me share the screen for just a moment. Okay. Let's see. Okay. And let me find out the spotlight. Yeah, here it is. Sorry. This is a Marubeni Corporation at a glance, and this is the headquarters. I'm around here now. And the company, Marubeni Corporation, is one of 5 conglomerates in Japan. And we are doing the power business, energy business, chemical business, machinery, food, textile, everything. And we founded in 1858. So the company is running more than 160 years. I would like to say company creed. sorry, it's in Japanese, but sei, shin, wa. That means fairness, innovation, and harmony. I would like to say Marubeni, as an environmental and social responsible company, today it is a very large important for SDG and social sustainability. From this standpoint, as I said, our company creed, sei, shin, wa, fairness, innovative, and harmonized is very important. As I said, I'm from power business, so I would like to touch a little bit about our power business into hydrogen business. As of today, Marubeni Power Business has 73 projects all over the world in 25 countries with total gross gigawatt is 39 gigawatt. You can see number of the wind farm project, solar project, but I should say that the majority of the power business today is from thermal power, mainly from natural gas. But Marubeni is now trying to expand our business to hydrogen in order to achieve low carbon society. We have already the renewable project, but we are making renewable project to hydrogen, and the hydrogen to in the future to export and come back to the power and energy. That is, well, I'm following the Panasonic word is I'm looking for this dream. Okay, let me tell you that today's I can say pilot plant of the hydrogen Marubeni is now doing. Unfortunately, today the hydrogen project is not yet commercially viable, as everybody knows. But Marubeni is now doing the pilot plant in Japan, Australia, and Europe and the Middle East countries. Let me go to the case study. This is the first project is the project in Abu Dhabi. Marubeni is doing the solar PV project. It's more than one gigawatt solar PV project in Abu Dhabi. And as you easily imagine that in Abu Dhabi or Middle East countries, there are plenty of the solar resources. And we are trying to utilize this solar power to hydrogen and trying to export. That is still we are trying, but I think we can make it. The second case study is the project in Australia. As Mr. Sugimoto explained, Marubeni is working with Australia and the Japan government to establish the hydrogen project in South Australia. This hydrogen power project is utilizing the renewable power or the surplus power, which is sometimes in South Australia, the market price is negative. And such surplus power is going to be used for generation of the hydrogen. And that hydrogen is going to be used locally or used for the stabilization of the grid market and export to surrounding countries, islands, and in the future to Japan. Likewise, Australia has a massive solar resource as well. Again, I'd like to emphasize that Marubeni is committed for the positive impact for the low low carbon or carbon-free goals and through with net zero emissions in 2050. And one more, just this is a recent highlight. Marubeni signed MOU with Scotland yesterday for collaboration with a floating offshore wind power project and the green hydrogen project. This is a really timely business. Thank you very much. This is it for my presentation. But I can say at this moment we do not have a perfect solution for climate change. But of course, global warming would not wait for us. So Marubeni is committed to do very active challenge for this decarbonization business, including hydrogen. Under our creed, again, sorry in Japanese, 精神は, that is fairness, innovative, and harmonized. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tachigami-san. Really, congratulations to you for concluding the very important MOU with the Scotland partner. Thank you very much. The next speaker, he's the last speaker, but an important speaker, Mr. Robert Grant, Director of Energy for Fortescue Future Industries. So he's participating via Zoom. Robert.
Good, thank you very much. Are you happy for me to share the screen?
Yes. It's coming. Yes.
How is that? So I think you are you controlling the slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. Yes, I'm Rob Grant from Fortescue Future Industries, currently Director of Energy and Global Engagement. I've come from a renewable energies background over the last 25 years, but very happy now to be working for Fortescue and Fortescue Future Industries as we embark on this exciting journey to transform and build a great energy business alongside a great resources business. If we could move to the next 2 slides forward and slide 3, the one after that. So Fortescue is the world's 4th largest iron ore company. It produces around 188 million tonnes of iron ore from the Pilbara in northwest Western Australia. Last year we produced a $10 billion net profit after tax, and the business has been in existence since 2003. It's a success in that very short period of time that gives us the confidence that we can do this again in the energy space as a great green renewable energy industry, and specifically utilising the great resources that Australia has in renewable energy, as well as the opportunity to create a great new export industry for Australia through green hydrogen. We go to the next slide. Our plan is to harness those renewable energy resources first here at home, so across Western Australia, in South Australia, as previous speakers have spoken about, Queensland, and then globally, to harness high-intensity renewable energy resources in locations that have historically not been able to be utilised because of their distance from market, and bring a scale economies to the production of that renewable energy to allow, for the first time, the production of green hydrogen at a scale and at a cost that allows substitution into existing fossil fuel or other industrial feedstock products to produce green hydrogen and its carriers such as green ammonia, MCH, and also, and importantly for us as an iron ore producer, to be able to produce for the first time green iron, which is reducing iron ore from to iron from the direct reduced iron processed using hydrogen rather than using coking coal, and that is where all of the substantial emissions from the steelmaking industry come from. The next slide. We begin that journey at home, and we set ourselves up to have to be competitive as a green renewables and resources company, because we set ourselves stretch 2030 net zero targets for scope 1 and 2. That is far ahead of any other resources company in the world. And additionally to that, we've set ourselves a 2040 net zero target for our scope 3 emissions. That's the emissions of the production of steel from the downstream use of the iron ore produced in the Pilbara. So to give you some context, our scope 1 and 2 emissions, about 2 million tonnes per year. Converting that into steel escalates to 200 million tonnes per annum of CO2. And our view is that as our iron ore customers in North Asia need to meet their emissions targets, we need to be providing them with the quality, with the reliability and the scale of green hydrogen to allow them to make that green steel a reality in the coming decades. Just move to the next slide. How are we doing that decarbonisation for ourselves? Well, we are investing already just under $1 billion in the integration of our mining operations into a single electricity network. We are installing substantial amount of new solar, substantial amount of new batteries, and shortly some new wind into that network to decarbonise the stationary energy fleet. And then we move on to the reduction of emissions from our most heavy emitting part of the business, which is our mining fleet. That's the large haul trucks and the associated mining equipment, and the railway network and some shipping network. We currently burn around 700 million litres of diesel a year in our mining operations, and unabated that will probably go to about 1 billion litres. So we're currently working on technology and development, actually at an industrial scale ourselves, to trial the combustion of ammonia in locomotive engines, in shipping engines. We've just announced today that by the end of 2022 we will have a ship, our own ship, running on green ammonia for the first time. And transforming assets like drill rigs, and if you move to the next slide, also our haul trucks onto a combination of either battery or hydrogen fuel cell platforms. The picture here on the left, it is a bit of a Frankenstein truck, but that is something that we've put together ourselves. We would like the OEMs to be moving with us. We're encouraged by the ones that are engaging on this program, but we're not waiting for the OEMs to produce the product that we need by 2030. We are on this journey and hopefully in many ways leading them and encouraging them to come with us. And as I said before, then downstream of our own decarbonisation, creating enough green hydrogen to start decarbonising our customers for iron ore, for the production of green iron, and then supplementary sectors such as green cement and green fertiliser, etc. Let's move to the next slide. Outside of the Pilbara, where our mining operations are, we have a number of projects under development. Probably the most progressed of those is a 250 megawatt electrolyzer, green hydrogen and green ammonia project based in Bell Bay, Tasmania. That's utilising the renewable energy that comes from the hydropower system already existing in Tasmania. And that we are aiming to reach FID in the first half of next year to produce around 250,000 tonnes of green ammonia per annum, making it by far the largest in Australia and probably the world when it comes online. We recently announced in Queensland that we'll be not only developing and working with Incitec Pivot on the Gibson Island existing SMR green ammonia production facility, but they're potentially turning that into another green ammonia facility by changing out the front end to produce green hydrogen and ultimately green ammonia, and also the manufacturing facility that we announced in Gladstone, which will, for the first time, see the installation and the building of a 2 gigawatt electrolyzer factory at Gibson Island. Across in the Pilbara, we do have those projects that I just mentioned previously, but obviously what we see as a great opportunity, and Darren alluded to it before, is there is also in the Pilbara a large amount of hydrogen needed for ammonia production on the Burrup Peninsula, and we're very excited to look at the second phase of how to decarbonise the operations of not only those ammonia producers, but it's a very significant natural gas and LNG industry. And then moving further north, we have a project in the development of the Kimberley, which we've also announced a partnership with ENEOS, and that would be for NCH. So trying to build a portfolio around Australia of utilising large-scale renewable energy opportunities to convert into the first of either domestic or international green hydrogen and carrier export. And just move to the next slide. We then try to translate that across the globe to be able to produce from a network of large hydrogen hubs, predominantly in the southern hemisphere, to support customers in the northern hemisphere and reach a target of 15 million tonnes of green hydrogen production by 2030. So again, you might have seen over the last couple of weeks and months announcements around Argentina, around Jordan, around PNG, and as I said earlier, for the first time being able to think about bringing a market to renewable energy projects that have otherwise remained dormant or undeveloped because of their lack of proximity to existing and traditional electricity demand markets. Next slide. We come at this through not just the lens of decarbonisation, but also social justice and working with communities. And this comes in many forms. There are communities in transition who will have to move away from fossil fuels onto a different form of employment through the demise of fossil fuels. And there are new communities that we need to bring on this journey, whether it be for supporting large-scale renewable energy investment or the production and export of green hydrogen. But clearly projects in all of these jurisdictions will not be undertaken unless all of these key guidelines and criteria are met. Next slide. So where do we see the future? We are very excited about the engagement that the activity that FFI has been talking about has now triggered within the customer market, and it's green hydrogen is an interesting market, and it's completely nascent. It's neither supply nor demand constrained, but the level of understanding and the clear direction that we're setting that Australia is going to become, and an Australian company is going to become, another low-cost, high-quality, high-reliability producer of green hydrogen for our customers in the Northern Hemisphere is eliciting an enormous amount of interest in offtake, and we'll be hopefully very soon announcing something for Tasmania specifically. But that demand and that chance to create an amazing new export industry for Australia, in addition to decarbonising us, hopefully well before the government's 2050 target, is where we're focusing our efforts. And a big part of that will be the relationship with Japan. And will be built on very similar terms, I suspect, as has been the case in the success and growth of the iron ore industry and the success and growth of the LNG industry over the last 20 or so years. And we look forward to the same being the case for green hydrogen in the coming decades. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Great presentation, and I think your company has making a very aggressive policy in pushing forward for green hydrogen initiative. Actually, our time is actually behind the original schedule, so that we wanted to take questions, but maybe we should continue this discussion, because I think this is actually the start of our communication, start of our joint work together, and I think we're going to communicate with each other even after this. And I hope maybe after this side event, you can go down to see Panasonic's actually the physical presentation about the hydrogen town efforts. So with this, I would like to invite all the colleagues to join us hand with hands, or to show to thank all the presenters for great contribution. Thank you very much. Now, finally, I would like to invite Mr. Sugimoto to provide his final remarks on behalf of the organizers.
Okay. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much for joining this event in Glasgow and also online. There are so many online participants hearing today's presentations. I'd like to say a few words for closing remarks. As presented by the many presenters and also participants, making a global supply chain of the green hydrogen is significantly essential to decarbonize in the Pacific area. And the key stakeholders, national government, international organizations, and the private sectors have the same views and also same demand for realizing green hydrogen's network. This is not a dream, this is not a future, this is real. Today, at the beginning of our collaborations, we made a fruitful discussion, and I personally learned a lot from many presenters and get an idea for the further cooperations. We sincerely hope that today's side event will make a great start for the regional cooperations on green hydrogen in the Pacific area. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.